Super Monkey Ball 3. D. Super Monkey Ball 3D was a launch title for the Nintendo 3DS. The late 2000s and early 2010s were Monkey Ball's experimental era. You had some touchscreen games, a game that used the Wii balance board, a game with motion controls and a jump button, But we're all done with that now. We are back to the basics of separate, timed levels spread out across 8 different worlds with your only control method being the joystick, or in this case, the circle pad. On paper, it's a classic Monkey Ball experience. But here's the thing. On paper, this is the Mona Lisa. But I can copy that too. Let's start with the positives. Aesthetically, I think this game looks pretty good. The colors and decorations are very well done. I think the patterns have nice detail without being too distracting or too simple. The world themes are fun, creative, and usually interesting to look at. The World 8 theme feels like it could be done a bit better, especially in terms of the floor being a little bright, but it's forgivable and doesn't make the gameplay experience any worse. There is a big issue in terms of these bright red railings all over the place in nearly every level, and I think they could have changed these to make them more consistent with each world's respective look. But honestly, that's the biggest complaint I can think of. The camera is generally nice in this game. Unlike some games in the series, it doesn't feel like I have to fight with it to get it to face the way I need it to. It feels like the camera prioritizes looking in the same direction as the monkey, which, like, what a crazy idea that is, huh? Why would you ever want it to do that? That said, the close-up nature can make it difficult to judge exactly where everything is in relation to you, though I suppose that's what the 3D effect is for. By the way, Monkey Ball 3D offers gyro controls as an option, which is kind of interesting because that's what Monkey Ball has always been, where you're actually in control of tilting the stage. And if you're planning on using the 3D effect and the gyro controls at the same time, why? And the soundtrack is pretty solid too. This game also introduced 2 new monkeys named Jet and Jam. But they don't do anything. They don't even show up at all in the story. Probably because there's no story. Well, hey, at least there's a cute little custom intro cutscene before each world in the Hey, wait a second. These are all the same. Unfortunately, the level designers took this back to basics mentality and made it a little too basic. If you were expecting this game to feel just like the classic Monkey Ball titles, you would be almost right. Just like how it's almost right to say you can drink dish soap. Gone is the large variety of innovative gimmicks we've come to expect from this series. Scrapped are the obstacles that demand a player manage their momentum and timing. In their place is now waist-high walls. Just waist-high walls absolutely everywhere. The stage design is so boring. 95% of the levels in this game are just a flat plane with walls that form a maze, or just a series of hallways that's mostly surrounded by railings and has all these weird little bumps in the floor. I mean, look at these. How are these making the level more interesting, or challenging, or fun, or anything at all? Oh, large square? People please, I can only get so excited. I would expect this kind of behavior from Step and Roll, but not from you. Yes, by the way, people like the Wii balance board Monkey Ball game more than this one. That feels wrong. That shouldn't happen. But we'll get to it another time. This game treats you like such a freaking baby. The player is physically incapable of falling in the entire first world, and most of its 10 stages are essentially impossible to fail unless you just don't move. Most of them drop you into a little ravine in the floor so that your only option is to move forward towards the goal. Like, I could understand doing this for the first level, but after 1-1, you've gotta give the player some indication that they might actually enjoy themselves while playing this game. Here, take a look at stage 1-2 from Super Monkey Ball 1. It's still quite forgiving and straightforward, but it requires a bit of precision and helps you get familiar with tilting the stage from side to side. But if you look, you might also notice this little ramp behind the starting position and a thin platform going underneath the stage. If you indulge your curiosity and take the ramp, you can go through a secret goal that lets you skip multiple stages. And heck, while we're at it, let's look at the second stage from Super Monkey Ball 2. Sure, you could take the nice, easy path that's been hollowed out for you, and most people will. But then again, those with a keen eye will see something more. Look at this big bunch of bananas hovering way above the stage. You want these, but how are we, the humble monkey, supposed to get up there? But you put the pieces together and realize that that if you built up enough speed, you could probably use this curved section as a ramp to launch yourself up towards the banana bunch and land on the path straight in front of the goal. It might take a few tries, but it's rewarding to pull off and shows that there might be more than one way to complete a lot of stages. These stages incentivize the player to look for secrets and take risks in their gameplay, and shows that there's more depth to these games than you might see on the surface. Monkey Ball 3D, on the other hand, despite being playable in literal 3D, might have the least depth of any mainline game in the series. Stage 1-2 of this game is called Turn Right, and the next one is called Turn Left. In only half of the stages in this first world is it even possible to reach the goal without collecting all of the available bananas. The stages are not designed around a unique gimmick or set piece outside of a couple exceptions. These stages are shapes. They are almost exclusively shapes. Leaf, butterfly, eye, 9 circles, flower, cobra, brain, turn right, damn large square. The controls work. I have no complaints about how the game or its physics function at their core. Playability is not an issue with this game. You'll never get stuck on any level for a long time, and the physics usually work as you expect them to. But quote-unquote playability can only get you so far if the player never gets to do anything interesting. Like I said, this game was a 3DS launch title, but look at all these other options. Pilot Wings, Street Fighter, Nintendogs. Give me one good reason I shouldn't be playing Steel Diver right now. Ooh, we can cross that off the list. You don't have interesting obstacles like previous games, very few moving level parts, no interesting use of the game's physics, nothing. Everything is just walls, bumpers, pebbles on the floor, more bumpers. Very few of the levels ever allow for any kind of intended shortcuts or creative problem solving. It feels like they came up with a couple dozen prototype levels that could have worked in World 1 and then said f*** it and made those 80% of the game. The stages that are difficult are not difficult for any interesting reason. They just frustrate you by forcing you into tight spaces and taking away how much control you have. You aren't getting satisfaction by finally taking the right trajectory or timing your run just perfectly. You're getting annoyed because the game is putting bumpers in your way to make you upset. Gone are the days of seesaws, or coasters, or bracelets, or coin slots, or arthropods. Okay, maybe it's not all bad, but now it's just a bunch of cheap, repetitive repetition. This is not to say that the old Monkey Ball games couldn't be cheap. They most definitely were at times, as is natural of arcade-style games, but at least they were interesting in concept. What's this? A curved surface? What's this? Buttons? What's this? A special type of bumper that... Alright then, this stage is called Slope Mania. That's how big a deal it is to have sloped surfaces in this game. And it's the third to last stage in the 7th world. Out of 8 worlds. The only way to truly get any challenge out of this experience is through collectibles. Mainly collecting all the bananas you possibly can. And you can tell that was a big part of the stage design. If you aren't trying to rack up these bananas, this game goes from pretty easy to, ah man, I accidentally beat Monkey Ball 3D in my sleep again. Each world in the game also has one special banana to collect. These bananas show up in one specific stage each, and are usually in a spot that is either hard to get to or takes a little extra time to reach, which might make it harder to get to the goal on time. These include the jungle banana, the haunted banana, the holy banana, and sticky banana. That's weird. That feels weird, right? Beyond these, any amount of challenge that exists in this game comes not from interesting level design, but the developers absolutely cramming the screen with random shit, and the at times claustrophobic nature of the camera. There's basically only one stage that I could see fitting in seamlessly if dropped into a different Monkey Ball game, and that's 8-10, the very last stage in the entire game. How the hell does that even happen? These devs are clearly capable of designing stages that are interesting, satisfying, and use the series' staple level design philosophy. Look at it. It's got curved surfaces, it requires you to master your momentum, hell, it even follows the Nintendo progression for platformer levels. It introduces the gimmick of the stage in a safe environment, allowing you to get familiar with it, and then increases the stakes of that idea before you reach the end. And despite all that, it still manages to to be a reasonable length and not overstay its welcome. Why wasn't every level like this? Okay, to be fair, there are a couple other stages, and I do mean a couple, that sort of feel like they could fit in other games, but that's primarily because they have opportunities for shortcuts. One level in particular, Super Slider, feels extremely similar to 1-8 from Super Monkey Ball 2. Super Slider only lets you build up enough momentum and fly off the track in certain spots, and it doesn't save a ton of time, but it lets the player be creative, and it feels like a Monkey Ball level. There were some other stages that introduced fun ideas, like making bumpy terrain out of these chocolate bar pieces, or using a ramp to try and land on different layers of a cake, getting better rewards the higher up you land. But these concepts didn't get developed any further than the surface level. I feel like they could have done so much more with these concepts if they had raised the stakes a bit, but as it stands, the only notoriety to either of these levels is that technically they aren't completely flat. As for the rest of these stages, sometimes you can drop down a floor through a gap in a railing. Occasionally you can save some time by going along the outside of a wall. Sometimes you can use a curve as a ramp to get slightly further in the stage. And a couple of the special collectible bananas require some real out-of-the-box thinking to get to. But these are obviously the exceptions. I know that not every stage can be a winner, but the majority of these don't even deserve a participation trophy. Speaking of participation trophies, what would a Super Monkey Ball game be without a great selection of minigame modes? This, apparently. Let's start with Monkey Race. Traditionally, Monkey Race takes place with the monkeys in their regular balls on a looped course, similar but not identical in style to a stage from the main mode. As the tracks got longer and more advanced, there would be more bumpers, thinner roads, and fewer rails, or something to that effect. In Super Monkey Ball 3D, what the fuck was that? So now the monkeys are in carts. Oh, that actually explains a lot. The monkeys themselves don't have unique stats, but the carts do. Instead of getting items from boxes like in previous games, now you drive through these arches on the track, which aren't even active all the time, because why would they be? The items themselves are pretty standard cheap kart racer fare, ranging from a single bomb with a minuscule area of effect to this thing, which is the equivalent of Mario Kart's bullet bill. Some of the tracks are pretty nice looking and have course design that flows well with the game's controls. And some of them are literally 2 miles long, have absolutely nothing interesting going on, and include both blind drops and blind turns that you wouldn't reasonably be able to anticipate unless you've already practiced the track a bunch. And this kart racer's substitute for drifting is that, where you spin around a whole bunch and then get launched in your desired direction. Guys, come on, the monkeys experience enough motion sickness through normal gameplay. Now you're gonna put them through this too? Alright, let's move on to Monkey Fight. Did they turn Monkey Fight into a Smash Brothers knockoff? Huh? Yeah, this is just a weak clone of Super Smash Bros., where the goal is to collect the most bananas. Everything down to the stage design and having different buttons do different moves. There's even a final smash. I mean, come on. This is not worth it. Alright, forget that. Let's just move on to the other minigames. Where are the other minigames? That's it? Really? No billiards, no bowling, not even Monkey Target? You programmed gyro controls into the game but don't have Monkey Target? What are we even doing here? If I had to describe Super Monkey Ball 3D in one word, it would be bland. If I had to describe this game in 84 words, it would be, this game is an overly simplistic yet patience-testing representation of the worst possible iteration on the Monkey Ball formula. While it might be completely playable in terms of controls, only a small handful of stages dare to engage a player's sense of strategy, momentum, or even change the player's elevation. I can tell that I won't be returning to this game for fun on my own time, and I almost can't believe I wasted more than 6 gigabytes of storage on recordings of it. I apologize if you like this game and you feel like there's a lot of negativity in this video. While this game does sort of return to the classic Monkey Ball formula, it just wasn't the substantial, interesting challenge that fans were looking for. Now I would like to end this video with the exact same level of charm and satisfaction as the ending of Super Monkey Ball 3D. It's over now, we're done, get the hell out of my house!